there, I'm Michael Hill with Canine Chronicle TV, and I'm so excited today to have a conversation with one of my dear friends, Carissa Shimpeno, and we are going to talk about her upbringing and life in the sport, in particular with a breed that is one and the same with her life, that is the Doberman Pinscher. How are you, Carissa?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to talk with you today because you've definitely been influential in my growing love for the Doberman Pinscher.
Oh, I'm glad.
So, just for those who don't know, let's talk a little bit about your background. Eliciton Dobermans is, you're the third generation in that breeding program, right?
Yes.
And hundreds of champions, national winners, specialty winners. I know you've won the group at the Garden, and you've grown up with the breed, and your kids now are growing up with the breed as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
we always have a red. Yes, we always have a red bitch in our house.
Wonderful.
If not more than one.
Definitely need more than one. They're like potato chips, right?
Are.
So let's kind of talk about the breed in some detail today. I want to hear kind of your thoughts, on what the standard says, but also kind of those extra details that you've learned and gleaned from living with them for decades. Let's start with first talking about temperament and character, because I know that's something that has kind of changed in the breed, since maybe what was a while back. It's a family dog, and you can have them with great temperaments, but they're still supposed to be a guard dog and have some intensity, right?
Yes. I think the biggest, there's been a change in my mom's lifetime, a change in my lifetime, and now sort of a change in my daughter's lifetime. So, I think that they were bred a lot more for protection initially, but they have such a keen sense of the human spirit. They're so intuitive that they just naturally became more, and so the ones that I grew up with were very safe. I mean, we never had to worry about them making bad choices, but they would rise to the occasion if they needed to. So for my daughter, I think that a lot of the Dobermans that I've been showing these past 10 years or so have lacked that sense of dedication to their partner. And that's not like across the breed. It's just a lot of the ones that are coming through my home, to be finished. They don't have that like indescribable quality that goes with the Doberman. So I know that my mom and I are definitely trying to focus a lot on that as well. So.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of a natural byproduct of their, being a companion dog more so than a protection dog, and so that kind of happens naturally?
I think that, in my honest opinion, it might not be the most popular, but I think that what happens when you have people breeding that haven't necessarily dedicated a lot of their time to the less fun, less social aspects of the breed and breeding. So like, it's not just anatomy. It's why are you making Dobermans? What separates these Dobermans from like a 1,000 lovable pets at the SPCA that need a home? So why are you making them? I feel like is super important. And without getting enough guidance from the breeder that sells you your dog, and then you're making those choices to make Dobermans without a clear vision of what sets them apart from other breeds. I think that's where things got a little blurry. It's like one friend breeding to another friend, but just because they're friends, nothing to do with the dogs.
All having good fun, but missing some critical aspects of what that makes that breed distinct, right?
Right. And then you have lots of people that dedicate tons of time, and they're wonderful, and they wind up they start just like anybody else, but they wind up being these huge assets to the breed. So it's not, I don't want to say it's only that, because there are a lot of dedicated breeders. Just that's what I've noticed in my experience as a handler.
Because you're seeing dogs outside of your program as well as the ones that you own and live with and breed.
Right. And like there were things that I thought I would care more about. You know, my mom and I took some time off breeding because I had a baby, and then she had cancer, and then the world shut down. So it's been a little while.
It's been a time.
So, but I think that we were thinking we'd miss the structure that we made, but what we wound up missing more than anything was what I feel like is the soul of our program, which is, it's like that amazingly cunning, usually red bitch that runs your home in a ton of ways that you don't even see. You know, like they run the emotional aspect of your home almost.
Yeah, they're like the regulators.
They are, because it's, you know, like my dog Hope, she is probably one of the less pretty ones we've bred, although I would only say that once. But
off the record,
she's perfect. But like she's never going to be shown, and she's spayed. But she will move from person to person in the house and give each one what they need, and she does it so silently you don't even notice it's happening until you don't have it with you. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a bit of a corny romantic, but that's the part I missed the most, you know.
Well, and I think that's such a great thing to talk about, because that's not something that you're going to like read in the standard. And so somebody who might be wanting to learn about the breed or judging the breed, if that's not a baseline for their breed or their breeding program, they might not even realize that that's missing or realize the importance of that, where it sounds like that's kind of like from the origin of what the dog was bred to do, you know, kind of being this dedicated protector. That perception has carried on, and that has to be protected, right?
Right. Yeah.
So do you think there are ways for a judge or somebody to evaluate that characteristic in the ring and kind of judge accordingly to tell what's there versus just what's food motivation?
Yeah, well, to some extent, but I don't know that is necessarily a trait that is for the judge to decide. I think that you'll know the ones that have it because they're the ones that give you the goosebumps. You know, it's like, I mean,
it's not like a database thing; it's a feeling thing almost.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of breeding programs that breed very beautiful, functional Dobermans, but they don't. They're not. That's not for me. You know, like I want them to be beautiful. I want them to be functional. I want them to be healthy. But I also want them to have that thing that makes owning a Doberman unlike any other breed.
I love that. It's a distinctive characteristic.
Yeah, it's that nobility. It's that, I mean, it's all in our standard, but I think that some people confuse intensity for nobility, and that's not necessarily something you can teach. I think it's just like the way that it's
like
hard
more
to
artistic.
Teach. Yeah. And you have to have a feeling soul, I think, you know, to detect those things.
It's not the engineer that's gonna find that. It's the artist that's gonna find that.
Yeah.
So speaking of structure and the look of the dog now, what are some of the finer details, in particular, like with head type and expression, that are correct? Because you see some variations in Doberman heads where it can look like a variety of styles and thickness, and you know, let's talk about some of the kind of more finer details with that.
Yeah. So I think it's really hard for a lot of all-around working judges to accept that we are not a head breed in any capacity. So it has, you know, it should be, it's a factor, but it is such a minimal factor. And I find it's really hard for like Dane breeders, Rottie breeders.
That's why I'm asking about it.
Yeah. So you know, they're like, that is beautiful, but what about the lipper? You know, and they don't even, it's not even the whole head, but they get caught up on a minor detail. So yeah, it's definitely important to know, but just not, I mean, what they're bred to do, it's not in the structure of their head. So I think that's why, you know, it's not quite as important, but it's probably easier to just name some relevant dogs that had pretty heads.
That would be perfect.
So I loved Fifi's head. I would have made the shape of her eye just a touch different, but the thing is that she was such a cool animal that I swear to you, she knew when to squint her little eyes. Like that's the kind of thing, like everyone would recognize that name and that dog because she gave you chills. That's the part of our breed that is like, she did that for her mom. You know, like she showed for other people, but she did what she did for her mom. She would have done
all the way
anything.
to the end. Yeah.
Yes.
I love
her
that.
mom. I think she was like 11 or something, and her mom was like, "Oh, why don't we try agility?" And she was like, "Well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it really well." You know what I mean? Like she was amazing, but she had a really pretty shaped head. I love Ripcord's head, the one that Dylan Kipp showed. Oh my God, his freaking muzzle was just so pretty, and the way that like when you walked up to him. He like if a judge walked up to him, he would get just a little taller and push out just a little more. Like those
rise to the occasion,
like melt your heart. Like I competed against him with one of my great loves, and even in the midst of that competition, I couldn't help but fall in love with that animal. I was like, I remember we showed together in like Louisville, and I hadn't seen him like ready to be a special. I saw him at a national and he was beautiful, but you know, Dylan puts a lot of work into her dogs. So when I saw him at that show cluster, I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can push mine over quite as well. Like, just not there.
That shows how much you love the breed, that it's not about what's like just what you have, but you can't help but be taken by a good one, right?
Yeah. But so he had a great head. I'm trying to think who else that was famous. A lot of our famous dogs actually don't have great heads, so I find that pretty interesting too.
That is interesting.
But they all have like that look in their eye, that intensity.
Expression. Yeah.
So
what are some other physical hallmarks of the breed? You know, like as far as tail carriage goes and proportion, some other things that you kind of get that first glance.
Yeah. So I think if you look at a Doberman and you're like, oh my God, that's so dramatic. Look how gorgeous that is. That's not it. I find a lot of people get caught up in that. And I mean, as a handler myself, I'm not above showing it too, because they will have other aspects that are wonderful. But sometimes that extremity doesn't lend to what they were bred to do. Like they have to have a moderate, balanced, proportionate body. They have to be agile because they're, you know, they need that forechest and they need the strong rear. But the forechest is so if they need to take someone down, they should be able to be standing next to you and be like, "Ooh, I didn't like that. That's enough." They should be able to jump and push, and they need the weight behind it. They need the upper arm to knock them down. So, and they should also be able to be running top speed, stop and turn on a dime and go the opposite direction with no problem. So if you're looking at a dog and you think of it doing those things and it cannot, then even though it's really beautiful, maybe it's a little more like racehorsey, you know?
Yes. It might look pretty, but it's not correct.
Right. I think the elegance doesn't necessarily come from like the super long neck, but the way everything will flow together.
The balance and the moderation.
Right. And like when the neck is set in properly and the front angles are right, how smooth it goes from the neck into shoulder, that flow feeling. I think that's where the elegance comes in. It's not the extreme or the length of neck or anything like that.
Right. Not in that breed for sure. So what about the gait? I know a lot of people love to race around the ring with a lot of dogs, but every breed has their specific speed and style of motion that's correct. What's the Doberman?
So, I mean, I think you'd get a different opinion with everybody you asked. And I don't know that one is more correct than the other. For me, when I read the standard and I think about how they're supposed to be able to stick with you all day, they're not necessarily working hard all day, but they can't get exhausted from walking around and collecting taxes, you know?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be able to light up when you need them to and sleep at your feet when you don't. So all of those things seem like just across the board, the way our breed is described, there's balance to everything. So like, yes, they'll walk through fire for you, but they'll also just warm your feet at night when you're cold or let you cry on their shoulder. So with the movement, it's the same type of balance. When I'm reading the standard, that's what I'm thinking. You know, it's not racing. It's being able to see their foot timing at a natural flowing trot. You can't see that when you're like racing around the ring. I'm always like, can you slow down so I can actually see what's happening there? No. But that's
can you do that again?
opinion. I know as a handler, there are some where you just want to really quick get to the end and then do the fancy finish, because you're like,
let's not focus on this.
Let's just really quick and then ta-da. But you know, as a breeder, when I'm judging, they have to go slower. So otherwise, I can't tell what is actually happening.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Do you see yourself judging one day?
Oh, I like judging Dobermans. Yeah. But not anything else. I don't like anything else as much.
That's very fair.
When I did our futurity, was it last year? That was so much fun. It was like my favorite room ever. It's just a room full of Doberman puppies. I loved that. But I don't know that I would. It was only so fun because there was so much quality, and it was, you know, young, beautiful prospects of our breed. So I don't know if I would enjoy it on a weekly basis when you don't have the best of.
Right. Know. You'd rather be breeding your own and showing your own.
Yeah.
I love that. So speaking of breeding, are there particular health issues that are under, more importance right now in the breed that you're focusing on or aware of and talking with as breeders right now?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been, in my lifetime, it's always been cardio. I find it so difficult, as I'm sure people in other breeds do as well, because it doesn't matter how diligent you are with testing. It doesn't matter if 3 generations prior none of them have had cardio. Yeah. It'll still find you. And so I the only approach that I've been able to take is not breeding for a source of income, because that's not the type of, you can't like mass produce Dobermans and take care of them on an emotional level. So I think that then you're dealing with a smaller group of people, and then you're able to help those people navigate what they need to be doing, like help them stay on top of testing, and so that you have more information when you're breeding your dogs. Like, it's not just the dogs that were shown and you kept track of, but the entire litter. You'll know if you lost a puppy that was, 5 years old to cardio, even if it was a pet puppy. If you can keep your breeding numbers down, then you can really be an active breeder in each dog's life, even the pets. Yeah. So I find that that's been the only way for my mom and I to navigate it, because, even like Lily, our beautiful red bitch, she is from a line that has, like, her grandmother lived to be 14. And her grandmother's mother, same. So from the grandmother back, there was all this longevity. And then when we were breeding Lily, her mother was diagnosed with cardio. And we were like, well, Lily looks good. Her siblings look good at the moment. And then she winds up getting cardio. So it's just very hard to be responsible for all of the puppy homes if you have too many, because there's no way around the cardio, in my opinion. Right. It's going to be something that you're going to deal with at some point or another. It's just like a time bomb, right? Right. Yeah. That's what I think. And then what else? And they do a lot of tests for VWD, and I think it's important. It's von Willebrand's. It's a bleeding disorder. I think it's important not to breed an affected, but I don't know that it's the be all and end all, because there's not a ton of clinical cases. So even affected dogs, they're not clinical. maybe
Right.
one out of every like 200 affected dogs is clinical. I just made that up. Like, I'm just guessing. So in
Sure.
case someone wants to freak out with, like, the actual
Not to
data, I'm
fact
just-
check.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not going to have the same toll on their quality of life.
Right. And then CDI is another one that seems to be popping back up. We had it in our line quite a bit before I was active in it. But even now, maybe one, out of every 5 years or so, you'll see it in our line at least. So I just think it's important we're very lucky in our breed that everybody is really good about being honest and upfront about the problems, at least in my experience. And so when you have that information and you're making your choices, you're making like very good educated choices versus what you think is right, but it isn't. I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Right.
I've not found that I've not found that in our breed. I mean, like even the handlers, like Andy Linton isn't really like a breeder, but he's certainly a staple of our breed. He's part of the foundation of it. But he would ask of his people to do the right thing. Do you know what I mean? Like if there was, so it's even the handlers. It's like it's always been that way, and I think we want to keep it that way. So each generation sort of steps up and makes sure that we do our best to make it a comfortable thing for people to come forward with health problems, because it's only your fault if you've not been honest about it.
Absolutely. It's an honest breed culture as opposed to closed doors and guesswork.
Right.
Love that. So let's transition to a little bit about how you have been able to work with the breed in the ways that you've accomplished things in the ring and that kind of thing. Starting with a young puppy, what are some things that you as a handler and training the dog do to kind of tap into that working ability and make their job fun for them?
Sure. Well, so I always tell my clients that this is less like boot camp and more like fun summer camp.
Yeah.
Like maybe drama summer camp or something, because there's just really not. I mean, especially the people that have come, like those really super nice people that own Hans that came to me.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, I know what you're used to, and I just want to be super upfront that like he's not going to come home a better citizen.
Right.
He will come home with his ears up. And showing like a star, but like we don't do good citizen stuff here. So I think, a lot of the stuff I do with the puppies is like, I like to use hot dogs or string cheese, just like the long, so you have the prey drive, but then you also have the reward. It's just right there.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of circles, one way and then the other. And so basically I teach them to follow the food, and then I give the food a command, like watch, and then they just they move around with your body, because when I transition the food from circling, they're always moving for it. And then I hold it here, and you just sort of move from side to side, and they move because of the food.
Right. So
everything is reward driven. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not a breed
really,
that you can just force to do it, right?
I mean, you can, but you usually pay for it later. So I don't find it helpful. I don't really like to pay the price in front of everybody, because I feel like that's when they wait to do it, especially the girls.
Payback now.
Yeah. So like Lily was famous for it. So even like Janine would watch her on live stream or something, and she'd be like, oh my God, did you not give her breakfast this morning or something? Because she just would be so just angry looking, just saucy. And it's usually because she just didn't like the person holding her, or they didn't pay enough attention to her, stuff like that. But if I were to take her in that moment and just be like, we're going to do it, she would, just shut down.
Yeah.
You can ask all of the people that showed with Lily and I, all of them heard me at some point literally ask her to please do it. Like, Lily, can you please? I love you. You're beautiful. Look, everybody loves you. Also, could you please just put your feet where they go? Like, just please. And like, I know that people don't think that like when they see us in the ring, but a lot of me showing the Dobermans is that in some form. Everything is always, it just goes better if there's like a please involved or a cookie or
Making it
just
worth
some
their
kind
while.
of, yeah,
You don't work for free. Why should they?
exactly. I think that they might get paid more than me sometimes, but little
At least
stickers.
they enjoy it. So let's
Yes.
round out with, what are some of your favorite memories with the breed, whether that's in the ring or the whelping box or with your family, just what comes to mind there?
Oh man. So my first memory of a Doberman is my mom's Doberman Kinderwick. Um, that was the first champion my mom bred. And their first dog show was when she was 17, and it was the DPCA National, and they won the Futurity, and they won Winner's Bitch from the bred by class.
Wow.
And Kinder jumped up into her arms. It was just so cute. It's like an iconic image of our breed is 17-year-old Gwenny with the miniskirt and the long ponytail and her red Doberman. So she was my mom's like ride or die when she was starting out to be a handler. And then when my mom had me, Kinder was 10, I believe. And so she was only alive for the first 3 years of my life, but her and her daughter, Carrie Ann, used to guard me in my crib. So Kinder would sleep under my crib, and she wouldn't even let my dad in. You know, like she let my Aunt Terry and my mom, and that's it. So that's Terry Hunt and my mom. So like she had really good taste, but
but there was no changing her mind.
Never. Then when she passed away, Carrie Ann was the one that was with me. And I think it was just, I was an only child with a single mom. My dad had some personal issues that took him away from us for a long time. And we moved away from our family into what I thought was like the middle of nowhere. Like in Long Island, if you want something at 3 a.m., you can easily find it. Yeah. Everything's open. Nothing shuts down. We moved here and like the grocery store closed at 6, and we're like, oh my God, like it gets dark out. There's like no lights. There's no one out.
You're stranded.
This is terrible. I had a tree house in the front yard, and my mom would be like, Carissa, what are you doing? You need to come inside. And I'd be like, I'm looking for friends. It's terrible. So the only thing I always had was my Doberman, Carrie Ann, and she was so powerful. Like I just always felt like there was nothing I couldn't accomplish with her with me. And I didn't realize it at the time. It was just life, you know? But so I think that's probably my best memory. It's not the winning that CJ and I did.
That.
It's like, it's that bond that comes and goes from my life, you know? CJ played a huge role in my life, but not the winning. Like the winning I found remarkably stressful, and honestly, it was very disappointing because it just wasn't, the whole process wasn't it wasn't the fantasy I had made up in my head watching it my whole youth. It was painful, and it was such a lesson in how dangerous it is to idolize people, you know? Because it's like
in your head that this is what makes life worth living, and then suddenly you're getting there, and what you're giving for it isn't playing off.
You're like, this is it? I did not think it would be this devastatingly lonely. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like traveling and being alone and on the road.
Yeah. And more than that, like you become like you can't trust anyone. And the people you wind up being able to trust are not the people that you expected at all. So it's, I still have my core friends from when I was 12. So I don't want to make it like it was this terrible heartbreak, but it was more the people that I had idolized from a distance, but didn't know. And I feel like our sport has so many of those. Like my husband says they're like savants, you know, like he says the same about me, so I'm not being critical. But it's like this like raw ability to tune into an animal you know, and so you can be so amazing at it. But usually there are some severe deficits in the human part. So I didn't ever want to do that part. That part didn't have a great memory to it.
Right.
But CJ saw me through a very, very public miscarriage when I could not speak to anyone because I felt so responsible.
Right.
But she was like, I mean, it was just, beautiful. Because like people would come up, they'd want to talk about it, and she would push them away with her body. Or she'd be super obnoxious and just start barking at them so that they were like, oh my God, what's wrong with your pet?
Yeah. And it's that you didn't even have to tell her to do that.
No, like and I think just like an animal or anything, having your back like that at any cost, and it's free. Like that love is free. It's not, all you have to do to earn it is love back and be respectful. And you can be so flawed and they still will just love you through it and love you anyway. So, I mean, Lily is another one that played a huge part. I could talk forever, but Arupe. Okay. Like Lily came, I had not connected to a dog like CJ because it was so hard to give her back. Like she belonged to her owner. She did not belong to stay. Like she was mine for a year. And I am so grateful for that. That year probably changed who I am as a person on every level. But she always had to go back to her person. And so I just couldn't connect like that again for a long time. And then Lily came into my life. Thank God Deneen decided to send her. But I don't know, that's just, you realize what they give you when it's absent from your life. You know, like she just came in. She was that same brave. She wasn't that for everybody, but for me, she would do anything, you know. And when I had to give the leash to she gave my mom such a hard time, all while I was showing her. But as soon as my mom became her handler, she was like, okay, Glenn, I'll do it for you. But like, yeah, just the way that they rise up for you time and time again. And then when she left, I had Esteban let me borrow his dog, Arupe, Esteban and his parents and his brother. And so I don't know, they fill this huge hole in your life because you're trying to be, I was trying to be so much for everyone else when I had Lily. Right. You know, like my mom was sick and I was having a baby and I had 2 other babies. And so I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the daughter that can show. Yeah, I can show your dogs too, Mom. It's no problem. Like, it's just me. I don't run that kind of show. Like, I just take like 7 dogs to the dog show and I'm happy. But, you know, so it was having her there and then Arupe there after. It feels like at the end of the day when you're completely just like dirt, like at the bottom of the barrel, you have nothing left and they just recharge you, you know, because they're like the best listeners. And
right, it's true unconditional love.
Yeah.
And I think
and
all
they
dogs
don't need
that.
anything.
Right. All dogs have that, but certain breeds and I think breeds and dogs for certain people just connect in a way that is more worthwhile than anything, any monetary value, you know, and what better way to spend your days than doing something like that with a dog, even with its stresses and its challenges and heartbreaks and separation, you know, like your passion and the way that those dogs have affected you, like anybody can, you know, feel that. And I think that's what makes life worth living.
Me too. I love my little pets.
Oh, well, Carissa, this has been so wonderful. I'm so glad we got a chance to do this and to hear about, you know, how this breed has really touched you in your life. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I know that's very personal.
Absolutely. I totally just rambled on.
I am so glad you did it. Well, from everyone at the Canine Chronicle, we thank you very much. And we hope you all enjoyed this opportunity to learn from Carissa Shimpeno.
Thanks.
Awesome. You were so good.
Oh, God. I get so nervous.
No, you are natural. I'm so glad that you like shared, you know, the the kind of, you know, more raw, like real life experiences with the breed, because I think that's just something that's really special that, like, again, for somebody who's looking up to you and seeing, you know, these accomplishments and might be thinking that that's what, like, it's going to make life worth living when I'm winning it that way, my dogs are that way, to just know that, like, there's another side to it and there's different perspective in life, and it's not all about records and wins, and it's more about that bond that those dogs give you while you're doing all that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so lucky.
You are the best.